Hi, you should subscribe to the Monaresclub. Because the Principal of Saiyans told you to, idiot. Bye.
Hey guys, what's up? This is James bringing you another tier list discussion here for the Monaresclub at youtube.com. Today we're going to be going over the meta for early 2022, spring 2022. We've had a good amount of regionals already. We've got some more scheduled out the way. And these are always just kind of a fun little discussion video. I always like to kind of like rank the leaders in the decks based on their results and stuff like that. And also based on my own personal biases as to how good I think some of them might be, whether they're overrepresented or underrepresented or whatever. I will preface this by saying I couldn't find the tier list for Dragon Ball Super on Tier Maker anymore, so I had to rebuild it, and I just kind of saved ones to the list that were ones that popped into my head. I didn't want to download all like 100 leaders again, so if I left off something very obvious, that might be why. So just let me know in the comment section if I forgot anything really obvious. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Remember, this is just like my opinion, man. This is kind of based on results and also my own personal biases again. So let's get right into it. So we'll start with the S tier. We've got Gogeta Xeno, King Piccolo, Sin Shenron, Universe 7 Goku, and Trunks Vegeta is what I think we've been calling this yellow leader, the yellow Trunks and Vegeta leader. Pretty balanced S tier right now. There's not really any green or blue. They just haven't been performing. Just haven't really seen them that much. But for them, we do see all archetypes represented. We see aggro, mid-range, and control all represented in this sphere. Here, the Gogeta Xeno leader, I think, is the best deck in the format. I do play King Piccolo. As you might know, I took it to Nationals. I went X2 at Nats with it. It was pretty cool, and I've been playing it for a while. But I do think Gogeta Xeno is just the best deck in the format. I think it has the best matchup spread. I think King Piccolo is a pretty close second, because it is extremely powerful, but it does have some flaws, and Gogeta Xeno is a really rough matchup for it. Then Sin Shenron hasn't won an event yet as of recording this video, but he's got the capacity to. He's always in top cuts. He's always putting a few in, and with different playstyles too. Universe 7 Goku also hasn't taken anything yet, but it's got so much representation in the top levels of play that it's hard to not put him here. And then Trunks Vegeta is kind of the wild card. I do have him at the bottom of S. He hasn't really proven himself yet, but I think he's got the power level capacity to be a real player this format. It's just people are just kind of tweaking the ratios and figuring out how to build him. He doesn't just like build himself. People got to find the right mix of good cards and engine cards for him. So yeah, pretty balanced S tier. I'm pretty generous with handing out stuff in S tier, I will say, though. So maybe I could deplete this down to a top 3, but it feels really hard to omit Universe 7 Goku and Trunks Vegeta from the S tier, just because they're really good. You know, they're just really good. A tier, we've got Golden Frieza, Soul Striker, Ramp Vegeta, Android 16, and King Cold. I think Golden Frieza is really, really good. I really like this deck. I've been playing it a lot this format, especially with a lot of people kind of gunning for King Piccolo. I kind of pivoted into playing Golden Frieza, and he's really fun. Really strong, too. He's got some weaknesses, especially against, like, U7's a really rough matchup for him, just because Mono Yellow has a hard time dealing with the big guys, and also they can kind of take out your Frieza's army guys on a whim with their Goku counterplay. So that's really obnoxious, but for the most part, he's really good. Just biggest issue in the format is definitely U7. Soul Striker hasn't really done a whole lot. He gets a couple of placements every now and then. I think Vegeta's actually done more than him in the more recent events, and I think Vegeta's a really solid pick this format. He's gotten a lot of really good tools from Realm of the Gods between the Beerus, Destroys, and the Goku counterplay. And Blue also or counterattack, the Triple Strike guy, who's like a big deadly defender. And then the Vegeta that comes into play and bottom decks 2 cards, it's the 20k dual attacker. I don't remember his name, but he's an exceptionally good tool for all the good stuff blue decks. Just great, extremely good removal tool with pressure stapled to him. Very good. And Vegeta getting extra energy really can help take advantage of that. Android 16 is super good. I think Android 16 is extremely good. I just think there needs to be more people playing him for him to kind of see his results. He's always sneaking into top cuts, though. Like, I think he's an extremely good blue leader. He might be the best blue leader this format. Like, you know, that might just be me coping, but I think he's really, really good. King Cold is the best green deck. There's not really a whole lot of competition, to be fair, but King Cold's also really good. He's always sneaking into top cuts. And you can do really well with this deck if you know what you're doing, even if your name isn't Devin Buttersworth. So, yeah, King Cold, really solid. Moving down to B tier, we got a lot. I think a lot is playable in this format, and I'll say I think everything from B tier up is nothing you should be surprised to see in a top cut. But you're more likely to see, I think the S and the A decks are more likely to carry you through to a win or like a higher placement in top cut. But I think anything in this B tier and above is nothing you should be like shocked to see in a top cut, if that makes sense. The Goku Black Wish leader is really good. I really like this deck. I have a deck profile on the channel if you want to see it. I think I built a really good version of it. I tested the heck out of it. It's really good. It's really solid. It just has some really big issues against Red, and especially against Universe 7 Goku, because it relies so heavily on the indestructible Aegis Zamasu staying in play for your pressure, to keep pressure off of you, rather, and to keep your interaction up, because your interaction's pretty expensive in that deck. Most of it costs 2 plus energy. And the Universe 7 deck can just get rid of it on a dime. It's super annoying. So yeah, it struggles really heavily into Red, just because they can take care of that extremely easily. Before you even... The U7 decks that are topping right now with the Jiren Videl combo can even get rid of it before you get a chance to defensively Aegis, so you just kind of wipe all your energy. Yeah, that's a big problem for it. Otherwise, I think it's supremely solid. It also can suffer into hyper aggro, because it's a Wish leader, but it does have an alternate awakening for 3 life, so yeah, really solid deck. Very, very impressed by this deck's performance. It's just got one really, really, really unfortunately bad matchup in U7, and that deck's everywhere, so what can you do? Android 21 is a weird one for me. I always want to put her up in A, along with Android 16, especially because Rohit always does really well with her, and I do sometimes see other pilots doing really well with her. But she's such a hard deck to play. Like, this deck isn't going to give you anything for free. You have to work for every single inch of advantage that it gives you, and it's not that powerful to make up for that is kind of unfortunate, which is why I kind of have it down in B tier. Really solid deck, but you have to... It's a tough one. You're always having to decide what lines to take, what points of interaction to take, what roles you need to play in your matchup. Even more so, you have to do that for every game that you play for the most part with every deck, but Android 21 kind of dials that up to 10, and it's a tough deck to play, so I got it down in B. Bojack, I've been messing around with Bojack. I think this deck's really solid. It's not crazy. It's probably not the best blue deck. It's kind of worse than Android 16, but it does do a lot of really good stuff. Thriving in the combo step is really good right now because a lot of the decks right now want to be getting in your face and not just like passing and giving advantage away every turn. You know, King Piccolo really wants to be in the damage step. Gogeta Xeno really wants to be, you know, in combat. U7 really wants to be in combat, so it's just a really solid pick. It struggles pretty heavily against Gogeta Xeno though. And my testing is that's just a really rough matchup, especially if you're on the draw. It's just there's not a whole lot you can do. You don't have really good interaction points, and he'll just kind of steamroll you before you get a chance to really get big value, unfortunately. Janemba is solid. He's probably the best mill deck, especially with the nerf on Android 18. He's solid. You know, he's always just he's kind of a cockroach. He's just always here doing his thing. You always have to be prepared for Janemba. I think he's a lot better in Best of 1, especially with no pre-side. That's why he does really well at webcam events. I think if we move into a pre-side world going forward, which I imagine Bandai's going to just make that the default Best of 1 format, I think Janemba might go the way of the Dodo. But until then, I think he's just a solid pick. You always got to be aware of him. You know, he'll just... If you draw too much, he'll get you. So you got to be aware of him. SS3 suffers against hyper aggro, and I think it's just kind of a worse deck than SS4 ramp. But it's solid. You know, if you want to play something a little different than Soul Striker and SS4, he's okay. He got some really good tools with that new Goku triple strike guy whose name I genuinely can't remember. If you can remember, sound it off in the comments for everyone else. The 6-drop from Realm of the Gods is really, really good for this deck. This is like the best deck at taking advantage of it because it gives you 3 free energy to work with every turn. Super good. Vegeta, U7 is solid. He's probably bust built with Hyper Aggro, Bardock's crew, and it's probably one of the best Hyper Aggro decks left in the game. If he wins the die roll, he can just absolutely dominate you before you get a chance to even get going. U7 Gohan is also okay. He suffers a bit against the upper echelons in this format right now. He has a rough go of it in the red mirror and against black, which obviously if you look at the top tier, that's a lot of it, because it's really hard to keep your guys on board to keep getting value. Your Divine Presence is also not the best against yellow, so it's kind of a little rough if you want to be playing U7 Gohan, but he's okay if you want to play something a little different than U7 Goku. Jiren just keeps showing up. Like, he's just a guy, and he just does... He has, like, basically one plan, which is just play a bunch of dudes and beat down, and he's just extremely solid at it. He's always sneaking into top cuts. I could even see him sneaking up into A tier if he keeps putting up results. Really good. Broly BR, with the red one. I guess I can't just say Broly BR because there's, like, 4 of them now. The red one, Swap Broly, is also really solid. He put up a lot of results in the first webcam event of the format, but I chalk that up to people not knowing the format really well and it being best of one. And he can just kind of cheese you out really easily if you're not super familiar with your deck and the matchup. I think this guy always pops up at the beginning of a format, just like Mill, and then just kind of goes away. But he's solid if you want to just kind of pick up a cool little aggro deck. Even with the nerf on the Planet Pampa, he's still just really solid. Cooler... I don't think Cooler's that good, honestly. I kind of want to put him in C tier, but like people just kind of show up with him and do well with him, so I can't fault it. I never see it doing that well. I'm never that impressed by it, but you know, maybe flame me down in the comments if you think I'm wrong on that. But I just don't think Cooler's that good. Bulma is also just kind of sneaks in there. She's got a lot of different ways she can be built. She's just been around forever, and you know, if you know what you're doing, you can get some really good wins, especially if you tool her correctly for the meta. Definitely something to be aware of. Gotenks is we got like a whole slew of green leaders here. Gotenks is okay, probably worse than King Cold, but if you like Gotenks, he's cool. He gets good value. He can do solid stuff. Kid Buu, I think, is underrated. I think I might have him a little high here, but I think he's solid. He's got some solid beatdown options, especially with the blue variant. We'll have to see. He's always just like sneaking around top tables, but never quite makes it into top cut. Broly Hand Destruction, I also don't think is that good, but it always does well in Asia, so I just got it here kind of to represent that, because he does well in some regions, but not others. I don't really know. I don't think he's that good, but he's okay. He was at Worlds, so what can I say? I wasn't at Worlds, but this guy was, so you know, I can't talk too much hate on him. Turles, thank God they fixed him. I think this deck's super solid. I don't think it's crazy, but I think it's really, 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 really solid, especially with the promo. I have a build of this on the channel as well, if you want to look at kind of how... This was before they fixed the errata, but before we kind of knew the rulings loophole with Tree of Might. So that build still works for this format. So if you want to kind of have an idea of how to mess with this guy, if you want to have a new deck to kind of mess around with, I think this guy's really solid. He's a solid little tempo deck, and he still plays a bunch of stuff for free. Really, really, really solid deck. Majin Vegeta is kind of like Buu, where he's just kind of always sneaking around the top tables, but never quite gets there. He did well in Australian Nats, I think. He's okay. He's just a good beatdown deck. He's like Turles. SS4 Bardock did well at one webcam event. I don't think this deck's that good either, but, you know, it's also really hard to play. It's kind of got the Android 21 problem, where it's just, like, difficult, and also not the highest payoff, so, like, what's kind of the point? Hatchiyak, I had up in A tier. He's always disappointing me, man. Every format, we think he's gonna be the new thing, and he's finally got enough tools to work. Especially ever since we got the Gogeta, SS4 Gogeta 8 drop. We're just like, man, this is perfect. Hatch is coming back. And he's not that good. He just kind of plays flat. He gets maybe 1 in top 16 and then drops as soon as he hits top cut. not that good. SSG Trunks and Vegex are just kind of Gogeta Xeno, but worse. They're solid. If they saw more rates of play, I could see them up in A tier, honestly. I think Vegex is still really solid. Especially if you want like a budget deck, Vegex is super solid if you're just getting into the game. AOD has some really good things going for it. And also Gogeta Xeno exists, so it has a very hard time living. The fact that they can just... Gogeta Xeno specifically can just get rid of its 1-drop, ignoring barrier for 1 energy. Like, as soon as the first turn hits, it's like a 9-1 matchup in Gogeta Xeno's favor. It's almost impossible to lose. It's just absolutely horrible. And then he doesn't have, like, the greatest matchup spread overall, but he's just a solid deck if you want just, like, a cool thing to mess around with, especially if you don't expect to see a ton of Gogeta Xeno. You can always metagame this deck a little bit. You can run it with the Slug engine, too, which is kind of neat. Yeah, AOD, super solid. Especially with the Janemba promo, too. The Baby Janemba promo is really good. Moving now to C tier. This is stuff that's... I'll preface this by saying the C tier stuff is stuff that's on my radar, but not stuff I expect to do well. So let's get into it. So we'll start... We've got the Zamasu, set 10 Zamasu. I think this deck's good. It's really reliant on the Unison, and it just isn't quite as good as some of the other blue options. But I haven't seen anyone really messing around with it with the new Checkland from Realm of the Gods, because it works with this leader too, because your leader just has to be Zamasu, and it gives you a free blue-yellow source, so you can play blue-yellow control with like the Zamasu the Eliminator and stuff, and then like the Tragedy Overground package. I think it's really solid. I just haven't seen anyone messing with it. Baby got a couple of tops, I think, at UK Fest, so I could maybe bump it up to B tier, honestly, up to Baby tier. But it's just, I don't know, I think its game plan just isn't that good anymore. I think a lot of people's late games are just so good now. Like, it has a really good matchup against, like, really aggressive decks. But against any kind of mid-range or control deck in general, everyone's late game plays are just better than yours a lot of the time. It's kind of rough. I could see people messing around with it with, like, the Kale 7-drop from... say in Showdown, or the 5-drop that you can play if you have 7 energy, wipes the board. I think that might be a good play, because I just don't think... I think Turning the Tide's good, but I don't think Baby's the best deck to take advantage of it really anymore, because it's just... There's a lot of ways to deal with Turning the Tide now. Not like to completely counter it like the Jiren Silver Bullet, but it does... like, you know, like SS4 ramp can get it out faster, and like... You know, there's just like a lot of stuff in the format now that just thrives in the late game that I don't think Baby is quite the best pick, but I think he's solid. Like I said, I could see him moving up to B tier. I don't know, that's kind of arbitrary. Helku is so close, man. He is so close. He could also maybe be a B tier. I don't know. A lot of these things in C could maybe be in B, depending on if they could just sneak into a couple more top cuts. But he's just kind of... He's a little clunkier than, like, every other yellow good stuff deck, because you have to have a Unison in play. That's his biggest flaw, is he needs to have a Unison in play. Frieza doesn't need to. Trunks Cheetah doesn't need to. That's his biggest issue. It makes him a little clunkier. Broly is kind of like the next best Yellow Saiyan leader after Trunks Cheetah. That's it, you know, he's just kind of worse than Trunks Cheetah. But he's okay if you want to play him, especially for nostalgia. He's cool. He also has the benefit of getting to see every card in his life, which is nice, so that's cool. And he plays really well into the blocker negates, because you can just rest mode them as soon as they counter, which is cool, with the leader effect. Jiren, Yellow Jiren, kind of has the Baby issue, where his late game used to be really good, and he could get to the late game really consistently, but he struggles against Gogeta Xeno now because there's so much, he just removes barrier so easily, so you can just get at your life total really easily. And then again, I think his late game is just too answerable now. Like he's a one-trick deck, but you know, when people aren't packing the answers, he'll be really good. Set 1 Broly, I don't think is very good. You can flame me all you want. I don't think it's very good. I don't think Surge Broly is very good. Launch, I think, is solid, but not that good. Like, she's just a really good draw engine for generic cards, but then a lot of decks kind of facilitate their archetype-specific cards are just better. Like, U7 Goku's archetype cards are better than the generic cards you get from Launch. And, like, Launch can't fill up her drop area fast enough to take advantage of those kinds of effects like U7 can. And she's just kind of a mid-range deck that just doesn't have as good of an mid-range kind of game plan as like King Piccolo or U7 Goku. Just kind of a little flaccid. She can be okay, you know, if you really like Launch. She's just really splashable too. Like, she's always going to be around. As soon as they release something really generic and stupid, then she's going to be really good. Kid Ku, I think is solid. You just slash the Gogeta Xeno engine, but he's just obviously worse at it than Gogeta Xeno, and probably worse at it than SSG Trunks and Vegeta. I think Mechikabra sucks. I think he sucks. I think he's just not that good. I've never felt threatened when I've played against it. It's just, I don't think it's that good of a deck. Sin Mill is really cheesy, but it's really answerable. It did really well in like 1 or 2 webcam events and best of 1. Any sided event, this deck's just going to get dumpstered and it's not close. Or if you like run into like U7, I think U7 actually has a good matchup against you because they can answer like Oceanus Negates so easily with like Coit and Vegeta Resolve Renewed. Like, I think it's just kind of not that good of a deck. And I did get dumpstered by it in the Carta Magica webcam event. I was playing King Piccolo, and I got dumpstered by it in round 1 by shoutouts to Super Shy Guy. That was fun, but I don't think the deck's that good. I'm just bad. Okay, and then we'll just go into the Fs in the chat tier. Rest in peace, Trunks and SS4 Toa. You can still play SS4 Toa, or you can still play Toa as her archetype, but her archetype's not very good. It's just kind of milquetoast. It's not that good. Trunks doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry, guys. It's just they didn't fix it, and it doesn't look like they're going to fix it. I'm really sorry. I hope they fix it, because this deck's really neat. Solid, like, C-tier deck if they fix it. Android 18 Mill, though, can suck my butt. I hated that deck. She can rest in piss. Fuck that deck. I hated it. And I'm glad it's gone. I'm glad she's dead. I never want to see her again. Yeah, those are my closing thoughts. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, if I omitted anyone really obvious, forgive me. Sound off in the comments who you think I missed. If you think I'm wildly off base on any of my takes, hey, let me know. I don't mind getting flamed. Get us into the YouTube algorithm, you know. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.
Till I get up, time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever